everybody. I am Dr. Grace Lordan, and if you are celebrating the holiday season, I do wish you a happy holidays. You are listening to bonus content from Workforce, a podcast that I host that blends behavioral science insights and work insights. This bonus content relates to the episode Office Fridge Politics, details in the show notes below where you can access the full episode. And the bonus content relates to a conversation with Thom Dennis, an ex-Marine, where I ask him, is bullying increasing in the workplace? Let's hear what Thom has to say.
It's difficult to tell, isn't it? What is clear is that more people are talking about it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's on the increase, but we get more of a sense of it because there's so many more people talking about it. There's been so much in the press, about the police and the fire brigade and even the NHS, let alone what's going on in the government. So I think is there more? Probably not, but there's so much of it's rising to the surface, and we have to. I suppose we have more choice to discuss it. It's harder to brush under the carpet than it has been up until now.
You think that bullying reporting is on the rise rather than incidences of bullying, people might infer that also the appetite for it to be tackled is rising. So how should individual managers tackle bullying in the workplace?
I think one of the interesting things about bullying is because it's not strictly defined, and because of that, a lot of people, it's very easy for some people to wriggle out, and as Dominic Raab did, and has created such a conversation, because and I listened to any questions and any answers after that announcement and his resignation, and a lot of people were saying, well, I'm a successful businessman and I don't bully anybody, but I've got to be firm sometimes. And I think one of the things that's changed is society's view on what is acceptable in terms of management style. And so I almost always seem to come back to the same question, which is, how well do you know yourself? And what is your style for getting things done? And when things aren't going very well, how do you measure the impact that you're having on people? There's the old golden rule that the people used to use, which is treat other people as you would wish to be treated, but that so doesn't work. And if you take that example, he was, and so many people in government feel like they need to get things done in a particular way, and it's the people they're dealing with aren't like that. And I've heard of secretaries who work in the Houses of Parliament who are just regularly traumatized by the way that things function there. So I'm not answering your question, but I think it's like you've got to come back to yourself and look at yourself and really understand the impact, and really measure that. How is the way that I'm managing impacting the people around me, and is actually that working? Am I getting the best out of people? And so it's keep coming back to oneself. Now, if you're a manager and there's things going on, once you sort of start to ask yourself about how am I doing it? I mean, so often when I go into organizations and there's this sort of the grand fromage, the big cheese, who says, deal with them, that department, they need fixing. And I want to turn it around and say, well, hang on a minute, how are you managing them, and how much are you part of the problem? And of course, managers hate that. They want you to solve the presenting problem. And of course, as I'm sure you have experienced, the presenting problem is rarely the real problem. Look at what's going on systemically and be asking open questions. And then, of course, if there is bullying, then how do you deal with it? And I was having a conversation with someone associated with Ofsted a while back, and one of the things that he raised was, well, somebody can be behaving in a particular way and honestly be appalled if they were accused of bullying. And then the natural reaction is to turn it around and saying, the person who is, in sort of bullying parlance, the target turns around and says, you are bullying me. And then the bully turns it around and says, well, you're accusing me of something, you're the bully. And we get into the classic TA drama triangle of the aggressor being turned into the victim. And then we get into this awful sort of conversation, and somebody else gets drawn in, and often it's the external who both want them to become the rescuer. And we have to, it's quite hard to stay out of that, but you've got to break that dynamic by being clean yourself. And that's quite a challenge. But I think just, again, that self-awareness of where am I in that triangle and how do I pull myself out of it is a very important sort of aspect.